The New Orleans Pelicans are starting to look a little bit more like a James Borrego team, and they just had their second practice under him on Tuesday. Let's talk about what we learned from that practice and what we can expect moving forward on the Wednesday episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the number one sports podcast network in the nation now. Come on, guys. That's awesome. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Join over 12,300 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And you can also watch us over on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. You're already listening to Antonio Daniels and Joel Myers watching them hug. Wasn't that an awesome bromance moment? But you're already watching over them, so you might as well come watch us over there as well. I'm your host for today, Pelicans Insider, credentialed member of the media, Dylan Sanders. You can find me over on Twitter at Dilly Sanders, and I'm also the publisher of Pelicans Roundtable, which is a fun community of basketball fans. Come over and talk some ball with me throughout the day. I am sitting in for the next couple of weeks for Jake Madison, who is your normal host. You're used to seeing him on there and his awesome beard. Now it's me with the mustache for the next couple of weeks as we go through it and watch some Pelicans basketball. There was a win yesterday, and hopefully there's going to be 2 days ago now, and there will hopefully be some more wins moving forward. Today, we're going to be talking about James Borrego talks a little bit about finding their identity. The identity is starting to come through in the way they play, and to look at that, we're going to look at some big differences from before James Borrego took over and then after James Borrego took over. Then we're going to talk about what else we learned during practice. There's going to be some updates on Jordan Poole. We had another update on him, and Karlo Matkovic, who is someone who I've been a fan of this year, but hasn't really gotten the chance because he's been out with injury. And then, of course, we're going to close out today's episode by previewing Wednesday's game against the Memphis Grizzlies. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right. We talked to James Borrego after practice on Tuesday, and there were a couple of pretty interesting things, but the number one thing that I want to start off with, because I think it is the biggest impact for this season, is what their identity is going to be. How has he changed this team? There were some questions on if he would even be able to really change things, because he's been on the staff for a couple of years. He is the offensive guy, so he was already there. He was already in the building. How much is going to look different? And I think we're already seeing a little bit more look different under him. So I've picked out three things that James Borrego talked about wanting to put an emphasis on and think that he thought that the team was doing well and wanted them to continue doing that over the next couple of games. Well, really the rest of the season. But this is the identity he is starting to see form within the team. The biggest change is in pace. Before the coaching change, they were a 99.55 pace, which is bottom 5 in the league. It's a smaller sample size, but in the 6 games since Borrego took over, they're the 6th fastest team in the NBA at 104.14. Now, that's something that is dictated by the opponent that you're going against partially. It's more of like you got to find a balance between the two teams. It's not really being taken over by one team in particular. If you're playing a fast team, you're going to have to play faster. If you're playing a slower team, you're going to have to play slower. They're going to have to match your speed. So it's a middle ground. It depends on the opponents that you play partially, but there is an emphasis on playing faster under James Borrego. And now sometimes faster means putting up a lot of threes. That's not what James Borrego is doing so far. The three-point volume is actually way down from when Willie Green was the coach, but the actual paint touches are way up, and you're seeing that translate into more shot opportunities because that's what the team looks like right now. That's the strength of this team, is inside the paint. They shot 20 more shots than the Chicago Bulls did in that win, but they shot less three-pointers. So that it doesn't always mean putting up a lot of three-pointers. Now, the Bulls are a team that play really fast, get up a lot of three-point shots. The other thing that has been way better under James Borrego is the rebounding numbers. Now, the rebound percentage, they're like a top 10 rebounding team in the NBA right now. They were a bottom 5 again under Willie Green. And I liked the way that Borrego put it, because Borrego mentioned, they don't have a Jonas Valanciunas on the team. He mentioned his days with the Spurs. He mentioned they don't have a Tim Duncan that's just going to go out there. You don't have to worry about them rebounding, because you don't have to worry about rebounding because they're going to be the vacuum. They're going to get all of the rebounds. The Pelicans don't really have that. Now, Yves Missi is someone that was a vacuum. Saddiq Bey has been a great rebounder over the past couple of games, but you don't really have that guy on this team. So you have to do it as more of like a communal effort. Everyone has to chip in. You need games where Jose Alvarado has 8 rebounds off the bench to win that battle. And, it's not shocking to find out whenever a team rebounds well, they end up playing pretty well, and it ends up being a closer game than it would have been otherwise. So those are the two biggest things that he said that he wanted to emphasize, is playing with a lot of pace and rebounding. It seems kind of, I would say, obvious to be like, oh yeah, we want to get up a lot of shots and we want to grab our misses. But when you're talking about an identity, the Chicago Bulls, they have an identity. Everyone knows that they're going to play fast whenever you play them. You have to adjust to that. The Houston Rockets are going to slow things down and be a little bit more methodical. So you have to find out what you're going to be. And it seems like James Borrego wants to be a very fast team. And another thing that he mentioned that he wants to put an emphasis on is steals, getting active hands on the defensive side of the ball. That is a defensive identity. And it's something that they have improved since he took over. It was 8.8 steals per game as a team during the Willie Green era of this season. And then now they're up by 2 with 10.8 per game. And I'd say if you want to get a lot of steals, you have the personnel to do it. Zion Williamson has been incredible at getting steals this season. And so has Jeremiah Fears. Talk about a revelation. He had that 7 steal game. It was 8. They took 1 away from him, which is, has to be really annoying for him. It's a really annoying thing to see, is whatever you take away stats from a player. But he had 7 in that game. He had the 4 steals the other night. And whenever he is getting active on defense, that's whenever he plays at his best, because if he gets the steal, then he is one of the fastest players in the NBA. And he can go down and get a quick bucket. And we're talking about the pace, high transition offense. And then that's not even mentioning the fact that they're going to get DeJounte Murray back, who is, again, really fast, a high steal percentage player. They have Herb Jones, who's hurt right now, but he's a high steal player. Trey Murphy's good at getting steals. They have the opportunity, the players to do that on defense. So what we've learned is James Borrego is searching for a high-volume offense. Right now, that means a lot of paint touches and shooting, and he wants to be active hands on defense. That is the identity of the New Orleans Pelicans under James Borrego right now, and if he has it his way, it'll be that way for the rest of the season. So when we come back, we're going to talk about a couple more things we talked about from practice, like injury updates from Jordan Poole and Karlo Matkovic. We're going to talk about using Zion Williamson and Derrick Queen as offensive hubs. And then we saw it. He punished the rookies when they weren't doing their job. He pulled them, played other guys from off the bench. We talked to him about why he did that. And so we're going to talk about all that stuff coming up next. Basketball season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache. I know that is the number one thing that would keep me from going to a game, but luckily we have Game Time. All those things you hate. waiting in queues, surprise fees, prices that jump out right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. Game Time is the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love their zone deals. They're a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So join us over on YouTube, 12,000 Pelicans fans there. You can also watch us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, the #1 sports podcast network in the nation. You can also come join me over on my website, the Pelicans Roundtable. Come talk some ball with me. And drop a comment down below. Everydayers, let me know if you're here. I know you are because you're an everyday. That's what makes you an everydayer. And let me know. Ask me any questions in the comments below. Let's get to know each other. All right, let's get into a little bit about what we talked to James Borrego about after practice on Tuesday. It was his second practice as the head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans, or interim head coach, whatever tag you want to give him. Well, interim is the tag, but he's the head coach. He's the head coach right now. Jordan Poole got the great injury update on Monday that he was cleared to resume basketball activities. But when he was asked about clarifying that and what that meant for him in practice, Borrego told us that Jordan Poole has not yet resumed contact activities. He's just been shooting, which is, it means he's on the way. He's on the road to coming back from injury, but it's just not there yet, which is really unfortunate because I think that he can really change this James Borrego offense because they're playing with so much pace. Jordan Poole is going to be, I think, a very beneficial player for him. He can get those volume threes. We talked about the paint justice being up, three-pointers going down. I think they could keep that pace, but also be a little bit more balanced so you're not losing the math equation of the three-point line as bad as they are in every game. Jordan Poole, I think, will fix that. And so what else that could actually fix the three-pointer thing is Karlo Matkovic, who's been out. He is the best shooting big that the team has. He's been out with this calf strain for the past couple of days, and we haven't really heard anything about him. And unfortunately, again, the update for him is that there is no update. We were hoping to see maybe a little bit more of a timeline, some more clarity on what Karlo Matkovic is going through. Borrego didn't give us anything. He said there was no update to give on Karlo Matkovic, but did acknowledge that they are hoping to get him back soon because he can be a very big beneficial player as the best stretch big that they have. If you're talking like pure centers, and he is obviously a lob threat, and he's active. He's fast. He plays fast. So I think he'd match what James Borrego is doing on the court. All right, so those are the injury updates that we got to. Next, we also talked to him about using Zion Williamson and Derrick Queen both as offensive hubs. I think we saw when Willie Green was still here, we saw Zion Williamson and Derrick Queen play together for a little bit, and it looked really, really good. It hasn't looked as good since Borrego took over, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's something that they're going to keep working on because having those two together is transformational for an offense. Borrego talked a little bit about it. I'll just give you what he said about getting those two together and having it be a beneficial relationship for both. I think we're in a pretty good rhythm. I mean, we're still trying to figure everything out, how to space off of each other, how to utilize both bigs as hubs in this offense. It's looking cleaner and cleaner to me. The more they're out there together, the more they can practice together. They're communicating well during the game. So it's just great to have Zion back out there, just to have his force, his presence, and gravity out there. And of course, we also talked to Zion Williamson, and he kind of echoed the same things. And he also talked about how exciting it is for him to be able to play with Queen out there, because I think these are two pretty unselfish players in the grand scheme of things. You think about Zion, you think about his him attacking the paint, getting whatever bucket he wants, but he can't also do that. He can't always do that. And he has the ability to be an offensive hub whenever he's not doing that. And having Derrick Queen as another hub out there, that just opens up so many playmaking opportunities. Zion talked about having so many different players that can take the ball down the court, himself and Derrick Queen included in that. And it just opens up a lot of options for this offense. The ball movement has looked a lot better in the past couple of games. And having so many players that the ball can go through and you trust to make the right pass is awesome. And you have both of them out there. Each player is having their own gravity. Of course, Zion opens up a little bit more right now. But Queen is also the person that you want to run the offense through. And I think you have to figure out how to get them both working together and how to have them both working together in this fast-paced offense, because I think that is what's really made that partnership tick down a little bit in like the net rating differential. It was a plus 17. I think it's about a plus 5 right now, that duo in net rating, around those numbers. So it's gone down. You got to figure out how to get that back up. And the last thing we talked to to James Borrego about, it was interesting, was the decision not to roll with Derrick Queen and Jeremiah Fears after the third quarter. And he kind of played coy a little bit, but he was just joking. James Borrego likes to joke around a lot, but he did talk about the fact that he pulled Queen and Fears because they were not playing up to his standard on the court. And I think that's kind of scary. It's going to be scary for a lot of people seeing them not sit. You didn't have to take a look at Twitter for long to see people freaking out about Derrick Queen not being out there. But if the game's going well and it's in a different direction than those two, right now they are still rookies and they have to, adjust to what the coach wants to do. You can't build everything around them whenever things are working out elsewhere. And with Queen, I think the issue is getting him to, better suited to play in the fast-paced offense that James Borrego, we talked about that identity. They want to get fast and they want to move the ball. He can move the ball, but he works better at his own pace. And so it's a mixture of getting him to do the right things, to play at a quicker pace. And that's why you look at like Yves Missi at center. I think Yves Missi is a better fit for playing faster on the court at center. And then Jeremiah Fears, he's looked great as as an individual scorer, but he's not always the best in terms of ball movement. The ball can kind of get trapped with him at times. It was what we've seen a lot out of Jose Alvarado this season, but Jose Alvarado was passing the ball a lot more. Trey Murphy talked after the game about how much he loved that Jose Alvarado was passing the ball. James Borrego talked a lot about how he loved the ball movement that he was seeing. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that they were going with Jose Alvarado, who was passing the ball more. Jeremiah Fears has been a great young point guard, but I would say playmaking is his weakest point, averaging like just over 2 assists a game is not where you want to see out of a faster paced point guard. The ball should be moving and not getting trapped. So I think you're seeing those two guys play what's been getting them success, play like what's been getting them success over the past few games, past few weeks. But Borrego is focused more on the team right now. So I thought that was interesting. Now let's take a look at what we can expect against the. Now let's take a look at what we can expect to see against the Memphis Grizzlies, because they close out their this little 2-game homestand before going back out on the road against the Warriors. They face the Memphis Grizzlies on Wednesday night. Let's get into that coming up next. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, and even my beautiful, beautiful skin. That's why I have been using DripDrop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. DripDrop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands, using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. Hydration has become a non-negotiable for me. Kind of like James Borrego playing with pace. It's non-negotiable right now. DripDrop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly just better overall. Right now, DripDrop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to DripDrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's DripDrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off. Stock up now and keep your body and mind performing at their best with DripDrop. And thank you, of course, for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. I'm your host, Dylan Sanders, today, filling in for Jake Madison while he's over on, his honeymoon there. All right. The Pelicans have one more home game in the month of November, and I think it is maybe one of the biggest games they've had in weeks, because it feels weird to be like standings watching while they are sitting at the bottom and at 3-15. But if you beat the Memphis Grizzlies on Wednesday, you are just 2 games out of the play-in. That's 2 games. And so we've already seen them start 3-15 and make a push to the play-in before. It was Trey Murphy's rookie year, 2021, 2022. They did just that. And it's going to be an even easier climb this year, because the bottom of the West is not very good at all. Because, like I said, the Pelicans 3-15, they're 1 win away against the Grizzlies, who are the current 10 seed, from being right back in the conversation. So how do you do it? How do you beat the Grizzlies? And it's kind of interesting, because a lot of it revolves around the things that we've already talked about today. One thing for sure is the status of Zach Edey, because we've talked about how much better they have been as a rebounding team under James Borrego. But Zach Edey kind of changes your entire game plan. He's 7'3". He's a monster in the paint, both offensively and defensively. He makes rebounding so much harder. They are one of the best rebounding teams in the league over the last 10 games, and that's partially because they got him back. Cedric Howard is another great rookie in this great rookie class, but he's a great rebounder. So the rebounding game is going to dictate a lot of what happens. I'm going to be really interested to see if Zach Edey does play, which it sounds like he is. He left the last game early with a head injury, but he was playing. He was pretty good. He looks good in practice, and it sounds like he's going to play. I'm going to be interested to see what that means for the center position for the New Orleans Pelicans, because Yves Missi looked a little bit better in playing with pace, and he was better on the boards than Derrick Queen. But Derrick Queen has already done well against a bigger center in Victor Wembanyama. Now, he's not the same player as Zach Edey, so it is going to be a little bit different, but I'll be interested to see what happens, the center battle there, because I think that is the most interesting battle on the court. And then, of course, there is the whole thing of pace. We've talked about the Pelicans have been playing faster paced teams, and they look good playing at that fast pace, but it's also a balance. And the New Orleans and the Memphis Grizzlies are one of the slower teams in the league. They're only slightly faster than the Pelicans were under Willie Green. So maybe whenever the game slows down a little bit, that's when you turn to Derrick Queen, because that's whenever he looks his best. And I'm going to be interested to see what that looks like. There is a role. I'm going to start creating a role player watch, because the role players keep destroying this New Orleans Pelicans defense. Right now, it's Cam Spencer. He is the player to watch out for. He's shooting like 40% on like 5 threes a game over the past 10 games. So he is absolutely someone that seems primed for a career game against this New Orleans Pelicans defense. Zion should be back. We'll be back. It's weird to keep having to say that every time, but yeah, it was a day of rest. He'll be back. It's going to be really interesting to see what he looks like if he plays the back-to-back this weekend. But before that, they do have to play this game against the Grizzlies. Jeremiah Fears isn't going to be able to get his get back on John Morant, who stole the ball from him and did the figure point thing. back in the season opener because John Morant's out. I think the Pelicans match up pretty well against the Memphis Grizzlies. It is just really that center position that I'm watching out for. I think that he's going to end up dictating the game. And of course, whatever, it's not Zach Edey, it's Jaren Jackson Jr., who has been also great this season. He's scoring the ball really well. He's looking a little bit better. I don't really doubt that he's going to be able to get his. He looked good against the Pelicans whenever they played them earlier this year. And then looking at that game, the New Orleans Pelicans played them close. It could have gone either way. The Grizzlies won that game by 6 with the first game of the season. I'm going to be really interested to see how New Orleans handles not having Herb Jones in this game, because Herb Jones had a great first game of the season. It's 17 points. He was 3 for 5 from the field, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block. And I think he played a huge role in turning the tide. Trey Murphy could supplement that by playing a little bit better. He had a weak first game of the season. And then I'm going to be looking at guys like Micah Peavy and really Jose Alvarado. Jose Alvarado really found something that worked for him in that last game. And of course, he doesn't have the size of Herb Jones, but he has that defensive intensity, and he has, he rebounded very well in that last game, and he was pushing the ball around. So I'm going to be watching that, of course. And that's going to do it for us today, pushing it right towards the end. But thanks for making this your first listen. For your second listen, be sure to check out Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball. He's helping me become a better basketball fan, and he's going to help you become a better fantasy basketball player. So, of course, check him out.